When it comes to BL dramas, there are always episodes that feel like turning points, moments that define the emotional tone of the story and shift the relationship between the leads into something more powerful. Episode 9 of Khemjira The Series is exactly that. Today, I'm going to give you my full teaser review of this episode, breaking down the highlights of Khem's struggles, Pharan's role in his journey, and how their romance is carefully built up through layers of vulnerability, trust, and quiet devotion. If you've been following this series, you already know the emotional weight it carries, but this episode takes it further by weaving together themes of sacrifice, guilt, and the longing for safety that only love can provide. The story begins with Khem trying to slip away from the village in the aftermath of Grandma C's cremation. This scene is powerful because it captures just how heavy Khem's heart has become. He blames himself for the pain around him, for the misfortunes of the master and the villages, and most of all, for the death of someone he cherished. His decision to leave quietly isn't just about escaping the village, it's about shielding the people he loves from further harm. Already, the drama is setting up Khem as someone who carries the burden of guilt, someone who sees himself as a problem rather than a blessing. But this is exactly where Pharan's importance begins to shine, even if he doesn't appear in the opening sequence. The presence of Pharan in Khem's life has always been about countering this very mindset. While Khem is timid, withdrawn, and prone to blaming himself, Pharan is steady, protective, and quietly intense. Their romance doesn't scream at you, it whispers. Episode 9 hints that Pharan is about to step in at the perfect moment to remind Khem that he doesn't have to carry everything alone. At the bus station, Khem sits alone, hugging his bag, his mind running through questions that no young man should have to face so early in life. Where will he sleep tonight? Where will he go tomorrow? Should he continue studying, or return to the monkhood? The loneliness in this scene is heartbreaking. The camera lingers on his tears, making us feel his emptiness. But it also sets up the stage for one of the most moving reunions in the series. Now, let's pause for a second. In BL storytelling, we often see the trope of one character running away, and the other chasing after them. What matters is how the chase is handled. In this case, the arrival of Jet and Chan brings relief, but it's also symbolic. They represent loyalty and friendship, the fire and water that kept Khem alive when he thought he was drowning. But beneath the brotherly bond, episode 9 teases us with something deeper, something tied to Pharan. Because while Jet and Chan are there to hold Khem up, Pharan is the one meant to catch him when he falls. The narrative carefully leaves space for Pharan to become the emotional anchor in ways the others cannot. When Jet hugs Khem tightly and says, "No matter what happens in the future, I won't let go of you, ever," it's a line that carries double meaning. On the surface, it's a promise of friendship. But in the context of Khem's relationship with Pharan, it echoes a larger truth. Khem is learning that he is not someone people want to leave behind. He is someone worth staying for. And Pharan, more than anyone, embodies that message. This episode teases their romance by showing us the gap between despair and rescue. Pharan is not physically present in these early scenes, but the narrative weight is leading us directly toward him. The writers know how to build anticipation. By showing us Khem's tears, his doubts, and his overwhelming fear of being alone, they make Pharan's eventual role as protector and partner feel earned. It's not about sudden passion, it's about gradual salvation. The romance between Pharan and Khem has always been understated, rooted in stolen glances, quiet conversations, and the way Pharan notices what Khem hides. Episode 9 amplifies this by stripping Khem down to his most vulnerable state. Imagine the emotional impact when Pharan eventually steps forward, whether in this episode or soon after, and becomes the one to tell Khem he deserves love, safety, and a future. That's the magic of this slow burn relationship. The teaser review wouldn't be complete without talking about the symbolism in this episode. When Jet and Chan Wai at the shrine, asking the sacred spirit to protect their friend, it's more than just tradition. It represents the theme of unseen protection. For Khem, who feels cursed by his own existence, the blessing of others becomes a lifeline. And later, when he finally sees his friend's sneakers in front of him, it's the visual proof that he isn't alone. This is the emotional setup for the Pharan-Khem romance. Even when Khem thinks he's alone, someone will always find him. What I find brilliant is how episode 9 uses absence to highlight presence. By showing us what Khem's life looks like when he tries to leave everything behind, the drama makes us long for Pharan's presence as much as Khem unconsciously does. This absence creates tension, a yearning that makes the romantic payoff even stronger. Let's talk about the emotional tone for a moment. The cinematography lingers on shadows, empty spaces, and Khem's face when he's trying not to cry. The pacing is slower than previous episodes, reflecting the weight of grief and guilt. But whenever Jet and Chan appear, the tone shifts to warmth and urgency. This contrast prepares us for the balance that Pharan will bring, not fiery urgency or calming water, but a steady strength that gives Khem permission to be weak. That's the core of their romance. Episode 9 doesn't rush the romance, and that's why it works. Instead of giving us instant gratification, it teases us with the promise of healing. It shows us Khem's loneliness so that when Pharan finally steps in, his love will feel like a rescue, not just a relationship. That's what makes this series different. It understands that romance isn't only about kisses and confessions, but about timing, trust, and the courage to stay. In conclusion, Episode 9 of Khemjira the series is a slow, emotional burn that sets the stage for Pharan and Khem's romance to bloom more fully. It uses Khem's attempted escape, his guilt, and his moments of despair to highlight just how deeply he needs someone like Pharan in his life. Through symbolic scenes, heartfelt dialogue, and the unwavering support of Jet and Chan, the episode builds the emotional foundation for a love story that feels inevitable, healing, and worth waiting for. As viewers, we're not just watching two characters move toward each other, we're watching Khem discover that he's worthy of being loved, and Pharan is the one destined to prove it. Episode 9 is a teaser in every sense of the word. It teases the romance, teases the salvation, and teases the emotional climax we all know is coming. And if you're like me, you can't wait to see how Pharan finally reaches Khem in the next stage of their journey.